saying a food is inflammatory is just a buzzword to get you all riled up to either listen to that person or buy a supplement or whatever it is. But no one food is going to cause an immediate inflammatory response in the body unless you have pre-existing chronic inflammation, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, I asked the question in a previous video, what does saying a food is inflammatory even mean? And for the most part, it was a resounding, we have no idea. Some people gave their personal symptoms that they might experience, but not the mechanism of action of what would be happening inside the body to make a food inflammatory. So real quick, we have to go over what inflammation actually is. So acute inflammation is when there's like an immediate danger, right? So let's say you get a mosquito bite. What happens? It gets red, inflamed, and itchy because your body is immediately sending this inflammatory response to try to wall off that little toxin and get rid of it, right? But then there's also chronic inflammation, and this would be something when someone has an actual diagnosis of a disease that we know causes chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is when the body is continuing to send these inflammatory markers, even though there's seemingly no outside danger, right? A lot of these can be genetic, things like rheumatoid arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, asthma, cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. All of those things are going to be conditions that are going to cause chronic inflammation in the body. And if you had one of these diagnoses and you had your blood work done, there's a good chance that you would see a higher white blood cell count and higher CRP level, which is C-reactive protein, which are two inflammatory responses that we can test in blood. So, no one food is going to immediately cause an increase in white blood cells or C-reactive protein unless you have an allergy to that food. Your body would send an inflammatory response to a food that it thought was a foreign body or a pathogen, but that's the definition of an allergy. Sans any allergies, there's no one food that is going to cause that response in the body. If you have a pre-existing condition that I just mentioned that is causing chronic inflammation in your body, then yes, there are some foods that may make that worse. But that's person specific, which is why a lot of people will have lots of different foods and lots of different symptoms that they experience when they have an autoimmune disease or whatever it might be, right? However, we can't say as a blanket statement that this food is inflammatory for everybody across the board. That's just a buzzword.